Hey guys, how's it going, Companion? So we had just finished broadcasting Challengestone 2, and actually did like a rebroadcast. And if you missed it, I included the links to the VODs in the description if you guys are curious. There's not going to be any spoilers in this video, so don't worry. You can continue watching. I'm going to talk about the challenge, a few of the issues we came across, but again, no spoilers. And a few comparisons to Tavern Brawl and at least this week's iteration. So, what was the challenge? The challenge was true Highlander. There can be only one. Um, Players must build decks with the following restrictions: 3 decks of the same class, Conquest. So usually in Challengestone we have people build 3 decks of 3 different classes and play Last Hero Standing, as they can invest more time into building one really strong deck, or they can choose to space it apart if they want. But this time around it was 3 decks and Conquest, so they have to win with every single deck that they build, each of the 3, and they're all the same class, and no duplicate or multiple cards with the same within the same deck and across all decks. So what this means is, let's say you want to play Mage, and let's say in your first of 3 Mage decks you want to put in a Frostbolt. Well, you can only put 1 copy, and if you put in just that, if you put in another one in another deck, that's not okay, you'll get penalized. So you can have just 1 Frostbolt across the 3 decks, you can have just 1 Fireball across all the 3 decks. You can't have it in your other 2 remaining decks if you put a card in this one. And if you do, all copies of those cards are replaced in order with the penalty list. And because of this, there is some way to break the challenge rules. It was a little bit tricky this time around to kind of make it work because we want to be very specific. So basically, if you had like 2 Frostbolts in the same deck, we would replace those 2 Frostbolts with 2 Salty Dogs. And because of the penalty cards, they have to be kind of bad because you can have 2 of them. So if you want to make a pirate deck, you could intentionally put in 2 Salty Dogs by penalizing yourself. But because of that, the cards kind of have to suck. But they can't suck too much because we still want players who make mistakes to be able to win, have a chance to win their games. So the setup was pretty tricky this time. We worked on this idea for quite a while. We had this idea in mind for quite some time, but to really get it to this refined stage, it took a little bit. So I feel it's a really cool challenge. It was far more difficult than Challengestone 1's challenge. And I wanted to show you guys my decks this time around. I plan on doing this in the first Challengestone, but I actually deleted my decks because I'm a dumbass. But this time around, we have them. Here are the 3 Mage decks. It might be a bit hard to see. You might have to like full screen this one, but I can just tell you guys generally what the concept is like, how I did well and how I did a bit poorly. So the first of the 3 Mage decks. Oh, I chose Mage, by the way, because I felt, again, a lot of the games are going to be kind of slowed down. People who play aggressive decks will have to play creatures with 1 health, which makes hero powers with 1 damage, much more powerful. Mage has a lot of cards, again, that you don't really need 2 of, especially the big ones. So cards like Flame Strike, cards like Blizzard, I mean, you usually don't run 2 of those in 1 deck. And they just have like a lot of very useful cards, and you'll see that in a second. So the first deck, it's kind of like a general control deck with spells. So I have some spell synergy. I put in Archmage in this deck because I feel he can kind of work. It's a deck that slows down the game enough where he'd probably see play. It has all the secrets in this deck, so I have like the Mad Scientist, a bunch of secrets, and all the other cards that work with secrets in the entire game, actually, that Mage has access to at least. And it's just basically like a standard Mage controlled deck. In the second deck, I have like an aggressive deck, which has basically most of the remaining spells. You got the mechs, you got some more aggressive cards, and in this deck I chose to put in Fireball and Pyroblast as finishers. I didn't want Antonidas in this deck because I feel Antonidas is a little bit slow. You know, we're probably not playing against like Control Warrior in this format, so they're not going to be able to armor up that much. They're not going to be able to heal that much. So you don't really need Antonidas. You just need some damage and the finishers. So that's the idea of this deck. And the third deck is kind of another control deck. It has it has like the Zombie Chow to be a bit more aggressive in the early game. It's largely based around dragons. So I have like pure control, dragon control-ish, and we have the aggro Zooey mech theme. And I feel overall the decks are really strong. I feel the first two decks are much stronger than the third. But in practice, you know, with some lucky draws, dragons can kind of make it happen. I like the aspect with mage that I can, you know, put in all the big dragons in one deck and all the other just generally good legendaries in another deck. I like the fact that I can put in Blizzard in one control deck and Flame Strike in another control deck, kind of balance it out. So, you know, that's kind of the idea. It's pretty good, but as you will see if you haven't seen the tournament yet, the idea of making two really strong decks and one weak deck didn't really work out too well for some players because it's Conquest. You still have to win with them. And because of that, it set up a very interesting tournament dynamic where, you know, Conquest is, let's say I play my aggro mage deck. If I win with that deck, I can't play it against my opponent again. I have to win with each of the decks. But because it's known that there is one copy of any one card across all three decks, any card my opponent sees me play, he will know that it is not in the other two decks. And this gives the player who's winning a disadvantage. Now, he still wins, he has to like win games for this to happen. But it makes it so the matches are like a little bit closer overall, especially for players who are like really paying attention. And this dynamic is pretty strong. You have to like balance out three decks that are kind of equally strong. You have to play them very well, and you have to maybe try to be a bit deceptive with what cards you reveal as you play them. So, you know, this made for a pretty sick tournament. The only part that wasn't sick is we had an issue. It was really an administrative one where we failed to catch some of the mistakes players made, and this is a mistake generally because the way the tournament was organized, you know, the players all had to make their decks on the spot at the same time. We just announced the challenge and then we timed them. In this case, we gave them 35 minutes. For me to come up with these mage decks, it took about 20 minutes, but yeah, that's basically the ratio we've been going. The last challenge was basically about double the time for the tournament players. So, you know, we give them this time right as they finish building the decks. You know, then we interview them, and we leave like, you know, 5 minutes or so between each interview to take a look at their decks and check if they're like legal as far as the challenge is concerned. And well, that was almost an impossible task because it's really hard to cross-check the decks against each other within this time frame. So, you know, this is obviously, the administration will be improved. This mistake will obviously not repeat itself. But yeah, it was a little bit of an issue. But not really. You'll see. You'll see. Watch the tournaments if you haven't already. So that's kind of what went down. It was really cool. I'm pretty proud to be part of the tournament. I'm pretty proud to at least have refined this challenge idea to the state that it was. You know, there's a few brainstormers that came together with this idea, as you guys may realize. But the interesting thing is, you know, on one hand we had this pretty sweet tournament. On the other hand, we have this Tavern Brawl format that Blizzard had just released. So I want to kind of give you guys my take on Tavern Brawl right now, just so you guys realize it's not just my opinion here, okay? Like, you know, this is a survey that was posted on Reddit today, and for a game mode that was as exciting, as anticipated as Tavern Brawl, for the second week to have this result, you know, it was okay, it wasn't very good, it was awful as the top three, is really sad. So why is this? What is going on here? Because it seems like Challengestone and Tavern Brawl kind of go along the same lines. I was a little bit disappointed in the first week of Tavern Brawl because there was no interaction with the deck at all. I thought the cards were really cool. I thought the idea was really cool. I just thought maybe you'd change out a few cards, and that would make it a lot more interesting. The replayability would be a lot higher. But as it so happened at the end of the week, as the Tavern Brawl week was ending, I actually wanted to play more and more and more and more because I kind of really started liking it, even though it was a bit one-dimensional. It was really cool, and the response of that week was pretty good. Again, I feel like Blizzard missed a lot of potential on how exciting they could have made that week without the card interactions, but still, the first week was pretty good, and the second week comes out, and it's this Banana Brawl, and it's basically people are playing aggressive decks from Constructed, and those decks are just absolutely dominant, and the game style is one that I think people specifically don't play Constructed anymore for. So what do I mean by that? Okay, that's not worded very well, but the idea is that Tempo Mage, annoying Hunter decks, and Zuby garbage like Warlock and just really annoying Death Rally creatures are the absolute king of this format. So what does this mean? This means that people who hate playing against these decks on ladder, which is most of the people who are trying other game modes, by the way, will be forced into playing this, among a few other issues that I mentioned in the past video, like only having one deck slot for Tavern Brawl, which sucks, by the way. So yeah, people really hated that, and I wanted to kind of get back to what Challengestone is and what the core ideas behind it are. So the ideas are that if people want to play and want to experience ladder style games, they can do that. They can do that on ladder in Hearthstone, and if people want to watch, competitive level play of that type, they can watch basically 99% of tournaments out there because that's what they are. So with Challengestone, when I have to come up with a challenge, the first rule of the challenge is to make all the existing decks absolutely worthless. To actually require players to come up with new decks, to have a new type of competitive gaming experience, and have that new type of competitive gaming experience transfer to the viewer as they watch it. So, coming up with like a banana challenge is really horrible. I mentioned it yesterday how, I was really tired, so I wasn't very imaginative, but, I said, this Tavern Brawl really sucks. The only worst one that I can think of is to make all Hunter class cards cost 0 mana. But then I thought about it some more, and actually that would be cooler than, the existing banana idea, because, people would kind of make decks with like King Crush and stuff, and cards like a Neutron would have to stop King Crush, and, everybody would be playing Hunter, which is only, it's a little bit different than ladder. Yeah, you get the idea. So that's a terrible idea. That's a terrible Tavern Brawl idea, but it's still probably more interesting than the existing idea. So yeah, I really hope Blizzard kind of turns around on this and starts doing a good job with Tavern Brawl, because it's really easy. Okay, if I can do it, they can do it. For Challengestone, I have a list of like 20 ideas that are really sick, and being able to like design the game your way, which we've seen that Blizzard can do in Tavern Brawl, makes it 100 times easier. I mentioned it like one of the things they could do is just do 2 mana crystals a turn. So easy, so easy. There's endless ideas, so there's not much sense really talking about it, but you guys get it. I'm really hoping for more out of Tavern Brawl, and I can promise you guys more from Challengestone in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed the tournaments. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. I hope you guys enjoyed my review. Check out the challenge. Check out the stuff if you haven't. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.